Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I am here to talk about all of the books that I acquired in February. So I acquired about 18 books total, I think, in February. I think that is the final total. I purchased maybe a third of those, and then a third of those are ARCs, and a third of them are like hard copies that have been sent to me by people. And I think that is exactly how I'm going to split this video up. We're going to talk about books I purchased and books I've been sent of various types. I think that that's what we're gonna do. That's been working for me on like other hauls that I've done recently, separating it up that way, so I think we're gonna stick with that method of organization. But yeah, I think that's the only intro you need. Let's talk about the books that I got in February. So I purchased a total of 5 books in February. One of those was a pre-order, and that's On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. This was released on February 5th. I pre-ordered it, so I got it on February 5th, and if you want to hear more of my like detailed thoughts about how much I loved this book, please go check out my February wrap-up. It was my favorite book that I read in February. This is about a 16-year-old named Bree who wants to make it big as a rap star, and at the same time opportunities are maybe starting to present themselves. Her mother loses her job, and Bree's not really sure how their family's going to manage without that source of income. This is an absolutely excellent book, a fabulous, fabulous Angie Thomas read. I loved it. Very, very glad that I pre-ordered it. I have 3 books that I got secondhand. There is a store near here called Grey Whale, and they do a lot of like used media, so we went and bought like a bunch of DVDs, a bunch of books, that kind of stuff, because there was a big sale going, so I got these 3 things. Only one of them I have read before. Lumberjanes, Out of Time. This is Lumberjanes Volume 4. Once upon a time I could have recited for you all of the people involved in Lumberjanes, but that time has kind of passed. So this is written by Noelle, Stevenson, and Shannon Waters, illustrated by Brooke Allen, with colors by Marta Leo. This is one of my favorite comic series of all time. I used to talk about it a lot more because I had access to copies, so now that I'm trying to build up my own collection, perhaps I will talk about them more because perhaps I may reread them. This is the first one I've purchased, which I know is Volume 4, and that's odd, but it was the one that was on sale. This is a story about 5 girls who go to a summer camp for hardcore lady types. It is lovely. It is about the power of friendship. 2 of the girls are in a relationship. One of the girls is trans. Like, I love everything about this series, so I'm starting up my collection. I also got the Eyre Affair by Jasper Fford. I tried to read this book in high school and couldn't get through it, but reflecting back on that, I'm thinking it's because I didn't know a lot of the references in this book. It focuses a lot on like classic lit, and I hadn't read any of it. So since I have read more of these books, I have been like interested in revisiting the story to see if I like it more this time. This is like a surreal mystery story. It's set in an alternate London in 1985, and it is about a detective named Thursday Next who is part of a very important division, the Literary Crimes Division. And things start going haywire when someone begins kidnapping famous characters from works of literature, and the first crime that has been committed is that Jane Eyre has been plucked from the pages of her own book, and Thursday has to go and explore this mystery. This is a mystery series that is very literary, and a lot of people really, really love it. So now that I've read more of these books, and specifically now that I've read Jane Eyre, I'm gonna give this one another shot. The last one I got secondhand was The Night Sister by Jennifer McMahon. This is like a thriller mystery that the back reminds me a lot of like elements of The Shining. It's about this place, the Tower Motel, and it used to be this thriving hotspot like in like the golden age of Hollywood. And now that a lot of time has passed, only 3 girls who grow up there remember its existence. It's just become this overgrown, forgotten monument. And when one of those girls is charged with a very serious crime, she leaves a clue that leads the other 2 girls back to the Tower Motel, and shit's creepy there. There's also a storyline that is very common with a lot of, like, mystery thrillers in that these 3 girls who grew up together at the motel, there's something dark and sinister that happened to them while they are there, and so I'm assuming we'll also discover that along the lines of this other mystery that's happening. This has just been on my Goodreads TBR for a bit, and when I saw it, I thought I'd give it a shot, because it sounds like it has the potential to be kind of creepy and cool. The last book I purchased myself is The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm, Tales from Allegasia, Volume 1. Aragon by Christopher Paolini. This is just like a series of stories set in the Inherited Cycle universe, which was one of my absolute favorite fantasy series in high school especially. Like, I was in love with this series, and when I was in high school and still thought that I was going to be a writer, really looked up to Christopher Paolini because he was this kid from a Midwestern state who was homeschooled and wrote his first book at 15, and as a 15-year-old who grew up homeschooled in a Midwestern state and wanted to be a writer, like, I just really admired that. So the Inheritance Cycle has a close place in my heart because of that. And I'm really excited to read some more stories in this universe. I think that he's actually going to go back and write more in this series overall, hopefully more novellas, hopefully another book is possibly in the works. I would love if a book was written about Angela. I would die. I know one of the stories in here is about Angela, and I'm so excited. Next, let's talk about some of the hard copies people have sent me. This is mostly publishers, and then I have one that was sent to me from my Amazon wishlist from a subscriber. So let's talk about these 5. So the first book that I was sent is The Hidden Witch by Molly Knox Ostertag. This was sent to me by a subscriber. It was sent to me by Rachel Duncan, aka Ray the Force on Twitter. I am absolutely thrilled that I have this graphic novel, which is the sequel to The Witch Boy, a graphic novel I absolutely loved. It is about a magical world in which boys grow up to be shapeshifters and girls grow up to be witches, but the main character, Aster, has a knack for witchcraft that is really looked down on in his community and, like, forbidden in his community. It's a really, really great book about expectations, about the pressure of family, and about magic and friendship, and I loved it. Molly Knox Ostertag is engaged to Noelle Stevenson, who created the Lumberjanes comics, and I love the two of them so much. They are, like, my fave couple, and they also create some of my favorite media, so I'm so thrilled that I keep getting more stuff by the two of them so I can keep displaying them together. It makes my gay heart really happy. So I have 3 February releases and 1 March release in, like, the hard copy section of this. We're gonna talk about February releases first, and then I'll talk about the March release. So first I have The Weight of Our Sky by Hanna Alkaf, which I am currently reading. There's my bookmark. This is a book set in Malaysia in 1969. It is about a girl named Melati who has OCD, but in this time period they don't have the language for that, so she thinks that a jinn has taken her over and that, like, she's being inhabited by a demon. And it's about this, but it is also about Melati trying to get back to her mother during the 1969 Malaysian race riots. This book jumps right in and is very brutal, so be forewarned of that going in. This is a historical thing that happened, and it's brutal and it's difficult, and this book doesn't shy away from it, but I am really enjoying it so far. I also have The Past and Other Things That Should Stay Buried by Shaun David Hutchinson, one of my most anticipated releases of the entire year. This is the book that Shaun David Hutchinson once described as Pushing Daisies-esque, which is my favorite television show. I'm so excited. This is about a boy named Dino who works in his family's funeral home, and he's very used to the concept of, like, death. He's around it all the time. And then his ex-best friend July dies, and then sort of comes back to life. I also know that this is super queer, which, like, all of Shaun David Hutchinson's books are, and it's a way thinner than I thought it was going to be. Like, the last Shaun David Hutchinson book was pretty chunky. We Are the Ants is pretty chunky. At the Edge of the Universe is pretty chunky, so I was surprised by how thin this is, but I'm really excited to see everything inside, because I love this concept. I love this concept so much. The last February release I have is The Great Unknowable End by Kathryn Ormsbee. This book is another historical fiction story. There's a lot of YA historical fiction happening this year, which, like, I'm totally cool with. I think that that's a great development for YA. But this is set in the 70s, and it's about 2 characters. Stella, who's trying to hold the remnants of her family together after her mother committed suicide and her brother joined the local cult. It's called the Red Sun. It's described as a local hippie commune, but this is about a cult. So it's about the fact that Stella wants to be a space engineer, but doesn't think that she's going to be able to do that with the restrictions she has holding her family together. And it's also about a boy named Galliard who grew up in the Red Sun, and that's kind of the only world he's ever known. But then he's denied the role of the commune's, like, resident artist, and he starts to wonder what's going on outside the walls of the community, but he's really worried because he's always been accepted for his Tourette's within this community, and he doesn't know what the outside world holds for him. I also think that this has, like, world-ending stuff going on. There's so much happening in this book, and I think that there's, like, a fabulist element, but I really loved Kathryn Ormsbee's contemporary book, Tashart's Tolstoy, so regardless of how weird and wild this sounds, I'm still 100% invested in reading it. And the last hard copy I have is The Fever King by Victoria Lee. This was released on March 1st, so this is my March release, but I did receive it in February, thus why it is on this list and not my March haul. I was sent this by Victoria's publicist, because I worked with their publicist for my January haul and gave away a bunch of books. One of them was an arc of The Fever King. This is another book that has a lot going on in it, and I've done my best to describe it previously, but I always feel like I'm not doing the summary justice. This book is about Noam Alvaro, and he wakes up in the hospital and discovers he is the only member of his family to survive a magical incident that has made him a technopath. He is the son of undocumented immigrants, and so he spent a lot of his life campaigning for the rights of refugees who were fleeing from, like, magical incidents. And then the Minister of Defense finds Noam and offers him a position to teach the government more about his technopathic abilities, which Noam sees an opportunity to make a change. But as he is fighting corruption from the inside, he also meets the minister's son, who is cruel and also really beautiful. This is a queer boy romance that deals with a lot more than just that, and it's gonna be dark and weird, but I'm super excited to read it. Hopefully I got through all of that in not the longest explanation in the world, but also look at under the cover. It's so beautiful. I'm obsessed with the style of this book. Okay, last section. Let's talk about arcs. So one of these arcs has already been released. I'll talk about that one first. It's Real Queer America, LGBT Stories from Red States by Samantha Allen. I am almost done reading this. I just have a little bit left, and then I will be finished reading this book, and I'm absolutely loving it. This is a nonfiction book written by Samantha, who is a trans woman who grew up super Mormon and in Utah. She transitioned later in life, met her wife Corey at the Kinsey Institute, and she is going on this cross-country journey with her trans friend Billy, interviewing queer communities in conservative states. This is an absolutely brilliant book. I am loving it so much. I liked the first chapter the most so far, just for me, because it was about Provo, Utah, and so it was interesting to read about the queer culture in my state when I haven't had a lot of exposure to the queer culture of this state. I've loved reading about so many other communities, so many vibrant communities. This is just like a really, really excellent book. I eventually want to get a hardcover of it because I want to, like, treasure this book forever. It's really, really great. It came out on March 5th. You should read it. I think I'm gonna try to do the rest of these arcs in semi-release date order, at least in month order. We'll see how that goes. So next I have Starworld by Audrey Coulthurst and Paula Garner. This book is being released on April 16th. If you haven't already watched my video recommending essential friendship stories, please do. That was the first video of a series of 6 videos that are going to be made by a bunch of different booktubers, so please check that out. I'm really, really proud of this whole, like, booktube tour thing. It took a long time and a lot of hard work, and I'm really proud of that video, and I'm really excited to see all of the other videos that are gonna get made. So if you haven't watched that yet, please do. But as a quick summary of this book, this is about 2 girls, Sam and Zoe. They have never really had a conversation before, but are both going through very difficult things in their personal lives. And then Sam accidentally sends a text to Zoe instead of her best friend Will, and the two of them wind up communicating all the time. They create this fictional magical world that they call Starworld, which is a place where they can go on adventures and avoid the complexities of life happening around them. It's a really, really brilliant, excellent book about people who come into your life at the right time, about female friendship, and Sam is queer. I would say lesbian, but she never officially uses that word. It's really, really good. Go watch that other video, pre-order Starworld, check out the other booktubers. Very excited. I have a ton of books that McMillan and Swoon Read specifically sent me. I have another one sitting in the pile over there, but I'm gonna talk about these beauties. Somewhere Only We Know by Maureen Gu is first up. I'm obsessed with the rainbow of this cover and the rainbow of everything else. It makes me very happy. This is a romance between a girl named Lucky, who is a K-pop star who's about to make her, like, big American debut, and a boy named Jack, who works for a tabloid part-time, and the two of them happen to run into each other in a hotel, and Jack doesn't initially know who she is, but, like, I'm sure they'll find out. And I'm sure there will be drama and romance, and it'll be adorable. That's this book, just being released on May 7th. On May 21st, we have Going Off Script by Jen Wilde, the newest Jen Wilde book. I know everyone's dying about this. This is about 17-year-old Bex who gets an internship writing for her favorite television show, but it turns out that writing is not actually on the docket. She's mostly getting coffee. So she writes a script, hands it to a supervisor, and he revises it and takes credit for it, which Bex is already upset about, but then he rewrites her lesbian character as straight, and that is a step too far. I also am pretty sure this is a female-female romance. I know at the very least that it's super queer, as all of Jen Wilde's books are. The only other book I've read by her is Queens of Geek, which I really, really loved. So I'm excited to jump into this one as well. We also have The Pursuit of Miss Heartbreak Hotel by Bonneau. This is also being released on May 21st, and is also a female-female romance. Other than that, I could not tell you what this book is about. The back copy is basically incomprehensible. It seems like it's going for kind of a 50s vibe with the language, but just like really intense 50s vibe. Like, let me read you the first sentence on the back of this. Ours is an age-old tale of two Bettys, Applejacks forever, when suddenly one goes ace gorgeous and then naturally massive popular. I have no idea. I hope. I have hopes, because it's a female-female romance, which means I'm going to try to give it a read. Last in May, on May 28th, we have Switchback by Danica Stone. This was going to be my first ever Danica Stone book. I've never read one of her books before, but this is about two teens, Ash and Vale, and the two of them go on like an overnight hike with their PE class and get separated from the group and have to try to survive the Canadian wilderness. Vale is also aro ace, which means she is aromantic and asexual, and I'm super excited to read another book with an aro ace protagonist. I think that this is going to be exciting and fun, and hope you've all been right about Danica Stone, because I'm counting on ya. Second to last, I have another non-fiction book. I know this is wild for me. It's Out of the Shadows, Reimagining Gay Men's Lives by Walt Odets. This is being released on June 4th. So Walt Odets has previously written, like, historical records of gay men's lives. He was a clinical psychologist during and after the AIDS epidemic. This isn't gonna be, like, an easy read, but I've been trying to be more invested lately in examining queer history, because it is not something I was presented with ever until I got to college, and in college it was usually through women's and gender studies courses or queer theory courses. So now that I've been out of school, I haven't been pushing myself as much to really mine the history of queer life. So I'm really, really excited to read this book. I have previously read a book about lesbians in 20th century America. It was by Lillian Faderman, and I really enjoyed that. It gave me like a good look into lesbian history, so I'm excited to explore a bit more about gay history. And the last book for this haul that I'm going to talk about is How the Light Gets In by Katie Upperman. I received like a big box of books from Macmillan. Some of them were books I wanted to read because they were queer or otherwise diverse. Some of them were not. And so because I get sent some unsolicited books, I'm not going to talk about those because I don't intend to read them. I'm keeping this one around because I'm invested in reading about sister relationships. This isn't exactly a happy sister relationship. It is about a girl named Callie who is trying to move past the death of her sister. 1 year after her sister has died, Callie goes back to stay with her aunt in her coastal Victorian home, and while she's there, she meets a cute boy, Tucker Morgan. She is sort of swayed by the summery ease of this town, but at the same time, she feels like she's being haunted by the memory of her sister, sometimes quite literally. So it's about grief. There's possibly a supernatural element. It feels like possibly this book is talking about ghosts in like a very real sense, but who knows? I'm invested, I'm interested. I think that this has an interesting concept at the very least, so I am hopefully going to be giving this one a read, and this one is being released August 6th, so look for it August 6th. There you go! Those are all of the books, all 18 books that I've received in February. Oh shit. What do you think about all of these titles? Are there any that stand out to you? Any that you really, really want to read? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!